Got a press release from the Treasury here. It says the Chancellor is visiting Beijing for the first UK-China economic and financial dialogue since 2019, seeking stability in relationship with the world's second largest economy to achieve secure and resilient growth. She's going to explore deeper economic cooperation, which came on the back of meeting President Xi at the G20. It goes on to say she will raise difficult issues, including China's support for Russia's illegal war in Ukraine and concerns over constraints on rights and freedom in Hong Kong. Well, joining me now is Kerry Brown, Professor of Chinese Studies. Good morning to you.
Morning.
Thank you ever so much for joining me. Look, I think many of us are very confused about Rachel Reeves being in China this morning. The fact is the economy is in the toilet, the pound is in free fall. We've now got a situation where you've got three very powerful people in finance. You've got the Chancellor, you've got Andrew Bailey, the Governor of the Bank of England, and the head of the FCA, all out in China. I'm confused because I thought we were told under Cameron and Osborne there was a golden era of relationship with China. Then under Rishi Sunak there was a U-turn saying that the golden era is over. Now Rachel Reeves says it's back on.
Well, I don't think she said it's a golden era. I mean, I think the golden era was probably hyperbole. I mean, I think we all realise that that kind of very overheated sort of language about the UK-China relationship is probably not appropriate. But look, I mean, the UK's problems are not in a vacuum. They're part of a global context, and China is a fifth of global GDP. And it's the world's second biggest economy. It did have 2% of the investments in Britain. The stocks of investments were from China, I think, about 8 or 9 years ago. Now it's 0.2%. And so, you know, in many ways, I mean, China's growth rate, it hasn't been super great recently, but it's been, what, 5%, 4 to 5%? I mean, Britain's has been flatlining. I mean, we have 500 million middle-class people in China who might be able to use British services, and, you know, the pathway to that is possible. If you don't go there, you don't know. So I don't think it's crazy for her to go there. Maybe the timing isn't super great, but then when is? I mean, the point is that we have to have a relationship with China. We can't just ignore it for positive and good, you know, and bad things. So, you know, I think her going there is entirely defensible.
As you rightly say, China is the world's second largest economy, the UK's fourth largest single trading partner, a trade relationship worth £113 billion. When she's there, what do you think she hopes to achieve? Because many people would say we're over-reliant on cheap Chinese goods being imported into this country. You make the point that actually trade is both ways. What do you think the best outcome would be from this meeting?
Well, I think there's three things that we're looking for. The first is investment. I mean, let's face it, you know, Britain needs foreign direct investment. I'll give you one statistic. You know, in the last 15 years, China has built 40,000 kilometres of high-speed trains. Britain has built, well, I mean, it hasn't built any. It's built 100 kilometres over the last 20 years. So, I mean, there's a sector where you could probably take Chinese investment, which wouldn't be, from security point of view, very problematic. The second is finance. I mean, the City of London is still important for Chinese currency trading. The City of London is still important for Chinese banks. I mean, as long as we can do it in a way where we can regulate it and control it, and after all, New York does, so why don't we? I think that's really, really important. And finally, technology. I mean, China is putting something like 20 times the amount of investment in technology research and development than we are. It's ahead on AI, it's on life sciences and all sorts of things. These are all difficult issues. We can't just go into any partner and say, look, hey, let's do whatever we want. But it's an opportunity cost. The thing is, if we don't engage, we're not going to engage with the new technologies China's going to make, which relate to our interests. And if we do engage, we're going to have to do so in an intelligent way, which, you know, picks apart the risks from the opportunities. And that needs people like Reeves going and basically deciding where we prioritise.
With your experience and your knowledge, what should she be careful about, just in terms of the modus operandi of China, what China wants out of any particular relationship? If you were giving her advice, what advice would that be?
Well, I'm a former diplomat and I've been giving politicians advice for 30 years. You always have to know what you want, which we've just been talking about. And you've got to be very careful. China in 2005 was the same size as the British economy. Today it's 530% larger. So we are not in an equal relationship. We have to go in knowing what we want. We have to go in knowing what an equal deal looks like. We have to go in knowing what we don't want. And I think if you do that, I mean, we've been talking to China for 400 years. It's not a new relationship. I think we can deal with this as long as we're clear-sighted about what we need.
And just in terms of that, infrastructure in this country, you mentioned Chinese involvement in that and investment in that. I'm very aware that in capital cities or cities like London, there is a huge amount of Chinese money.
There was. I mean, I think the thing is, in the last 5 years, it has really gone from, kind of boom to bust. I mean, China, because of the pandemic, because of the political issues, I mean, all of those were entirely valid. Britain had to be very, very cautious, but it kind of really, really took the temperature off it. I mean, I think today, Chinese investment in real estate and things like this, I mean, it could increase. Again, we don't want the situation like it was in the past where it looked like it was out of control. You've got to know what you're doing. I mean, I completely accept it's a difficult relationship. It's never been an easy relationship. Hong Kong, Xinjiang, Taiwan, Tibet, these are all big, big issues. However, it's part of a bigger, a bigger picture. And I think you've got to really, really know how to navigate that. She has excellent officials around who do know China. She's got a very good team in Beijing at the embassy. So I think we can handle this as long as we don't get over, kind of overexcited or, kind of over anxious.
And what do you think China wants out of this?
I think China wants a place for investment where it can platform its investment in a very well-regulated environment. It wants some technology partnerships. Finance. In the end, it really thinks that Britain is very, very strong, or was strong in finance, and a place in the City of London where Chinese currency can be used to settle invoices. That was used in the past. It still exists, but those things it's interested in. And of course, there's still 150,000 Chinese students here. They're very important for the British education system and for China.
And how do you think China will react to the headlines here about Rachel Reeves and the economic performance of sterling at a time when she's visiting China? Will they think she has authority?
I think that they'll be respectful. Look, what they're absolutely obsessed by at the moment is what happens on the 20th of January in Washington.
Yeah.
And what they've got to kind of knuckle down. And so if Britain can give them any kind of support in what we're all heading into, I think that they'll think, okay, I mean, her problems are her problems, our problems are our problems, and our problems at the moment are also pretty big.
Kerry, really good to talk to you. That's Kerry Brown, Professor of Chinese Studies, talking about Rachel Reeves being in China, trying to strengthen the British-China relationship and why it is important.